Facebook.com/TBUGunslinger, Twitter @JohnReinott. It's John out here back with you for another NHL 19 video and clip. The last time I think I talked to you guys as far as this game was concerned was beta, so it's been a long time, and I have some news to finally put to you if you're still playing this game by this point, because now you'll finally get the payoff where the servers actually work. Yes, the game came out in September, shortly after the beta, just a few weeks after, but the servers, counting wins and losses, have not begun to actually work until late December. So what Nick and I decided to finally do was we give it one last cup run. We see if we can win an elite championship. And now that the wins and losses will actually count, we'll start over. That's not one of those things I usually like to do, let alone I'm always the joke of starting over and making my stats look good and all of that. But starting a club over is not necessarily something that I really look forward to doing. But when you actually can get your services and efforts not being wasted and seeing what we can actually do, knowing what we know, this might be a good thing to do. And as I mentioned time and time again, going from NHL 12, the two top threes and a top one, the thing has been a lot different going from NHL 14 and progressing onward, that you're getting into divisions. So you're going to be consistently playing harder opponents as you move up. And granted, as we're going in here, I've noticed a lot of you guys, and it's not just the only one of myself that I'm thinking about here, you start new clubs and you don't even think about it. Because I can definitely tell you, going through this, I've played with some people with incredibly high CRs. I know that they're making new accounts just to try to make their club look good. So everybody does it. But now that the servers are actually in working order, I can't blame any of you guys. So what you're going to see here pretty much is over 11 minutes of unadulterated highlights for the most part, leading into the first 4 games here of the Elite Cup run from December, going into highlights into January with the new club. So we went from the KC Wings, and I said, you know what, screw it. I always wanted to have a Detroit Red Wings regular home uni, and Nick can have the last 2. We're going to name ourselves the 2002 Detroit Red Wings and try to just dominate the rest of the league. And so far, shout out to the team that sticks out for Harambe, that I believe is like 256-0 and counting. I don't know how you guys are doing that, but 33-1-1 through 35 games is a hell of a start, and that's what we managed to accomplish, losing our very first game, and then losing the 5th game, and then I believe having a streak that's almost approaching 30 at this point. So it's been absolutely incredible. It's been absolutely fun. I know that there's a lot of things I'll go out there and say as far as player builds and the things I've tried before, whether it would be NHL 12 and the World of Warcraft style customization, where you can put any single point on any particular stat. As I mentioned before, going into NHL 19, at least they've included specialties, so you have a tiny, teensy-weensy bit of customization, but that's all you get. It's a +5 shot here, it's a +2 there, however you decide to work it. So I figured, going through the couple of months where the stuff doesn't count and just trying to figure out the game, the way that you do it, and we predominantly just play 2s and occasional 3s, but this is how it's going to be run, so our stats are not going to be as inflated as a lot of you other guys that play human goalies and full 6s and things like that. But the best thing that you can do, in my opinion, is to just have a teammate that you feel comfortable playing with, that you can balance with back and forth, having comfortable taking the shot from any side of the ice with your teammates. You transition to get the best shot you can possibly get, and the only build I foresee that actually works in this game is a sniper. And it could be different for some of you out there, but the hitting in this game is absolutely outrageous, and it remains to be outrageous. Not to mention, if you barely take a hit, you lose the puck. Stick lifting is probably a little bit more effective, but I myself am not that great at doing that. So I just find that hitting, because you can do it with any build, at a 5'11", 196, I think that's what our snipers are, to have a little bit more weight to it, just so you can get a little bit more of a transfer of the hit and maybe possibly get through the smallest brush of contact, which it never really seems to happen, but that's the hope and thought process behind it. That the 5'11", 196 sniper is the best thing in the game that I have found to work for me. It's worked for us. It's led off to a terrific start, And you really just have to transition to getting the shots that you want to get. And I know a lot of you out there, you want to talk about shooting slap shots and things like that. I'm going to tell you it's a completely wasted effort. Pick one shot, stick with it. Right now, I think the sniper starts with 78 deking base, so I had a +5 there because you get one or two boost, and when you get to level 40, which isn't that long to take, especially if you play some of the single-player Pro-Am games to get yourself leveled up pretty quickly, you can, before you even get in the club or before you actually play online, you can have most of the boosts unlocked that way. And really, all you want to do, especially on the sniper that I found for me, is you get that +5 deking just to occasionally be able to make a move, as you saw when I beat through 2 defenders. Nick is in blue, and I'm in red, and boy, does he have a bajillion more points than me. But what you want to do is try to get that best amount of deke possible to possibly get around a defender. And let me tell you, it's incredibly hard because the computers hit you like a heat-seeking missile. But I find that that's the best thing to do. And then second or first, however you want to do it, whether it's deking or shot, 1 or 2, the next thing you want to do is you pick the most dominant shot and you stick with it, and that's what you stick with. You don't try to force things. You don't try to put a square peg in a round hole, so to speak. Stick with your most dominant shot. Stick with your most comfortable with. Get the best shot possible, and fire pucks at the net. That's how this game works. In fact, a lot of the times through this 33-1-1 start, which I feel incredible saying that, even though I know it's not going to last. It'd be like Michigan basketball. They're not going to stay undefeated forever here. What I would say is you have to just consistently work at getting a shot. And if you say, oh, it's still the same glitch shot from so many years ago where you bend the stick back and shoot the wrist shot, so freaking be it. You get the best shot you can get, you move on to the next spot. You don't try to force too much. Because, let me tell you see through these highlights over and over and over again, I don't know what other builds you would be able to pick. Yes, it's fun to get hits and things like that, but are you really going to score at Grinder? I did see one team that actually beat us, I think gave us the first loss, I think within the 5th game. The dude had an enforcer defenseman, and he was just bombing slap shots, and it was going into the net. And that was between like a Division, I think 9 or even 10 game. And yet, after that, after maybe 32, 33 games later, I haven't seen anyone else do that. So either, I don't know if it was just a one-time thing or the dude was just incredibly good with an enforcer defenseman and a bomb shot. I even tried to play against somebody that had an enforcer defenseman at center. And one of the toughest things wasn't the face-offs. It was because you can win a lot of those because I have a higher attribute just because of natural at center. When you're playing defense at center, it doesn't really work out that well. But the team just proceeded to, with the big-ass enforcer defenseman, sit in front of the net with the whole entire team and just block the net and hope that when they get in the offensive zone on our end, that they would just shoot and hopefully get a wrist shot without even aiming and just pressing up on the stick. Very interesting strategy. Some of the stuff that we've seen in here, you'll find people, they got so pissed off at us that they were just passing around back and forth until they get the puck stolen from themselves and ultimately get scored on anyway. It's not to brag and it's not to anything else, but you just look at it, whether it looks boring to you or not. It's the same old thing. You get up in transition, you get the best shot possible, and you move on. And that's really how you have to game plan it. When you're playing against human goalies, which you probably won't do too much in the club, but when you're doing that, I found throughout some of the games that I have played that playing a human goalie can be somewhat very difficult and compared to years past, because if you pretty much just stand in the spot that you're supposed to, the game will let you automatically save the shot. And that's actually good for a lot of you guys that want to go ahead and play goalie, but it's a little bit of a transition, so you have to kind of just get deflections and cross passes and things like that to try to script the goalies to make them not make a save. I've noticed that a lot of the human goalies at a certain point of the game actually are really, really good. And I do think that's a good addition for EA to try to get people to want to play goalie and things like that. But there are some things where the hitting is just outrageous. You know, losing the puck immediately is just outrageous. You can barely get around anyone. You have to just do the best you can with, you know, skating back and forth manually. As I get incredibly lucky there, get tripped, and then somehow still get a goal. Unbelievable. But you can't really find your way around people, and everything else just seems to feel to me, even though I love playing the game, I honestly thought it was better than in beta mode, and I really will believe that way probably all the way through, because I'm imagining at this point that NHL 19 is not going to get too many more incremental upgrades here or changes, because the servers are actually working, so hopefully they're moving on to the next game. And then as we edge into PS5, the next Xbox territory, sometime probably in 2020, that hopefully this team is able to actually get enough of an upgrade. I know EA is a little bit of a smaller team as far as sports and all that, but they make money by the boatloads. But hopefully they're able to actually make a transition into a game that feels like a new game, because honestly, to me and through a lot of us that still played this game throughout the years, not much has changed since NHL 07 and the invention of the skill stick when Alex Ovechkin was on the cover of the game. Still looks the same, still kind of plays the same. There's been some iterations there between, aiming right and now aiming left, and then just little iterations of what the AI will do. But it's time for a facelift in this game, and it needs one really bad. So I'm hoping as we go along, you're going to see some improvements, big-time improvements, as the game will get a much-needed facelift. Much more stuff to come, because I couldn't fit all the highlights in here. Have a good one, guys. We'll talk to you soon. It's been a hell of a run, and we look to continue it as best as we can. Peace out.
Cannot be stopped.